acimgather.us.
Well, those are our little ads
Mm-hmm.
that we have made by Devin and well, those are our little there we go ads. Yeah, here I'm sure we have live on YouTube, so that's why I hear myself twice. We'll get it. We'll figure it out. I guess I'm a little blurry this morning, even though I just did a whole hour with people with on the daily lesson. But yeah, that happens. Anyway, good morning, Bruce. Good morning, everybody. We're here for a study of A Course in Miracles, or not a study of Course in Miracles, or Absence from Felicity.
Well, it is a Course in Miracles study. It's
Well, it
just a
is.
very
Yeah, you're
specific
right.
focus in terms of our
It's specific.
inspiration.
Absolutely. So we're reading the book Absence from Felicity with from Dr. Kenneth Wapnick.
Mhm.
And let's see, get us the reason I'm doing it this particular way is because I'm not joining on the other channel. I'm just putting the live up for the so they're listening to us on YouTube.
Okay.
So they should be able to hear us as we speak. And so I'm going to turn the volume down over there. And hope that we're being heard. The only way I could tell for sure if we're being heard is through this other. Everything is all backwards since I came back from Grand Junction. It's like, there we It's like I had to just like remember everything. Anyway, I'm here with Bruce Rawles, and we're reading Absence from Felicity by Dr. Kenneth Wapnick, a story of the scribing of A Course in Miracles, Dr. Helen Sheckman. And it's also a story about Helen's life. And it's a story about um, basically all of our resistance, right? Every
Oh, yeah.
my story too. So anyway, we're getting toward the end of it. We're 95% through, according to my Kindle.
Yep.
Yes.
I've got us on page 487 with the unconscious priestess, which is what I see on your screen. So yeah, we're getting close to the wrap-up phase.
Yep. So, would you like to read?
Sure. Sure. Ken starts a new section. This is in chapter 17 called The Reality of Jesus. And this subsection is titled The Unconscious Priestess. Ken begins, there was a wisdom about Helen throughout her entire life, almost like a knowing or pre-knowing the workings of the mind that the Course would later expound. It was if that wisdom, indicative of the underlying priestess self, capital S, self, in Helen, were already firmly in place in her mind before the Course, and I believe it was. She seemed, I think that's pausing just for a moment from Ken's commentary. I would say, that's true of all of us. I mean, in fact, there's, I think, at least one place, if not two, where the Course says, in order to deny something, you must have first known it. And so, for us to deny our real identity, we must have first known what our true identity in spirit is, and that's why we're drawn inexorably back to it. So it's no accident, no mistake, no fluke that we're drawn to the Course's non-dual metaphysics, because every one of us knows on some deep level, however seemingly buried, that we are all part of the same singular identity that is eternally innocent, eternally loving, eternally peaceful, and free of all the ego nonsense. Right? So I'll continue where I left off. She seemed always to be someone to whom others naturally gravitated for help. I forgot where I can read a little better. Okay. While she was still a young woman, an incident occurred that exemplified this, and at the same time reflects the bitterness Helen felt towards her father. At a family gathering, one of Helen's aunts, or aunts as I used to like to say it, sought her out for help, and Helen and she spent some time together. At the conclusion of the evening, Helen's father, maybe I'm still getting warmed up too, inquired as to the
Yeah, that's a
purpose.
little Freudian there.
Yeah.
Helen's further.
uh, as to the purpose of this extended conversation. Helen explained, and her father responded incredulously, "Why would anyone want to speak with you? You are the littlest and the least." Oh my gosh. It's just a little bit of a put down, huh? Helen never consciously forgave him for what she perceived as an egregious insult, but in, quote, Deliverance, unquote, one of her poem to Jesus, she wrote down, "I am the least and yet the greatest. I who hold your hand have heaven's might with me. I go in glory, for you walk with me. Deliver me into my Father's arms." I was just going to comment on that based on, what we were just thinking about as far as, the non-duality of the course. The least and yet the greatest. The least is from the perspective of truth, the littleness, and that's the course cutting us some slack, is really the nothingness of the ego. But the, the course doesn't. It says several places it doesn't seek to deprive us of the littleness we think we have, the little we think we have, and having and being are the same, so the little we think we are. Um, and yet the greatest, well, the greatest is the oneness. So there's not a comparative thing going on. It's just the greatness really is probably a better way of saying it, right? But it's that is our the greatest equals the greatness in pure non-duality, right?
And it is very indicative of what we think of ourselves
Yeah,
in
yeah.
relationship to our father. And it seems like, and I'm sure Ken is going to point this out, that her father was the one who said that she was the littlest and the least.
Uh-huh.
So how, and I love that this poem is called Deliverance, how she, came to know that the least is the greatest.
Mm-hmm.
That that the truth is that her, even her own father couldn't take away her life, her glory, her everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very interesting. I love this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Our real identity that we all share is the singular greatest identity, which is um, also there's no room in perfect oneness for another, but only because it includes everyone and everything, as we would think of it anyway, or at least the reality of
yeah,
everyone and everything. Not all the separate and warring parts that we made up. It would indeed seem that with these words coming from a deeper part of Helen's mind, she had forgiven her father at last. Interestingly enough, the context of the poem is Jesus's leading Helen back to her father's arms. That's with father with a capital F. The reader may also recall the strong possibility that Helen's father, with a lowercase f, was the source of the material dictated on sound to her. See above, page 388F. Well, there's probably a different footnote in yours, maybe? Okay. Um, an expression of Helen allowing her father to join with her. Okay. Do you want to pick up from there?
sure, yeah.
Okay,
So
seems like a very short
um
breaking point.
this is I, I'm I'm just I'm gonna have to go back and look at this thing about the sound machine.
Right. Yeah. Was it sort of a technical um,
Well,
channeling about the nature of sound and audio waves and whatnot?
yeah, there was some kind of machine or
Yeah, it was basically um, well, yeah, I'd have to read it too without
yeah,
having to
yeah, yeah. We'd have to read
say
it.
something out of turn.
I
Or
know exactly.
Yeah.
So, but
Oh, well,
I'm
since we read it.
interested now. So
Yep.
the ego is just like, "Oh, what happened? Where was that? I remember seeing that. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, stop thinking. I don't need more information. Okay. All right. So Ken continues. I return now from this slight digression related to Helen's father. Helen related to me three isolated incidents from her life, each of which exemplifies her innate wisdom in recognizing the power of the mind and the powerlessness of anything external to affect that mind. Both of these ideas, by the way, are essential to the thought system of A Course in Miracles. I should also mention that while awareness of the truth of these ideas is certainly not in and of itself an expression of a state of advanced holiness, I believe that in Helen's case, such awareness was indeed reflective of this deeper wisdom that came from her true self. Excuse me. The first incident occurred when Helen was a child. The other two occurred in Helen's adulthood. All right. So these are Helen's stories. Helen's brother's Adolf was 14 years older, and although they never close, and in fact never became close, he did enjoy tickling Helen, whose squeals and screams made the activity quite appealing to him. Recognizing that while there was nothing she could do physically to stop him, Helen knew she could control her reactions to the tickling, and so she decided that she would no longer be ticklish. The next time Adolf began to tickle Helen, he was met with no squeals or screams. With all the fun gone, he very quickly abandoned this activity. Helen had done nothing to stop the external source of her distress, but was able to do something about its internal source, her own mind. And I just have to say this. Um, this is assault. Whether people recognize, oh, it's just tickling. They're not really. I have seen someone be tickled to the point of just becoming like panic. I mean, people, it is not a fun thing to have someone grab you and start um, tickling you. It is a very it is an assault.
Yeah. And
And
and our media doesn't even cover the numerous tickling fatalities that are
no,
underreported, right? In fact, I
no,
was walking around the neighborhood the last few weeks and seeing all these little plastic gravestones, and I didn't see anyone that said, here lies a person tickled to death, Not-
tickled to death. That's
yeah,
something
yeah.
that we used to always say. Are you happy about that? I'm tickled to death. Have you ever heard that saying before?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
But
It's
you're right. No, really anything that basically, gets a rise from someone else that um makes the dream real. I mean, and I think the course would probably go that far as to say that it, is an assault, but it's an assault within the dream. So, and there's no order of difficulty.
it
So the
is,
course
yeah,
wouldn't, even though it sounds outlandish to state, the course would not make a distinction between tickling and rape or nuclear
exactly.
holocaust, or a hangnail.
Yes.
But that all of those are attacks on our real identity, which is free from form and independent of all of our notions of space and time and separate selves.
Yes, and I thank you for that. That is absolutely true. Tickling is painful. It renders the person helpless,
Yeah.
and
And
so
then and Helen's solution was something I think probably all of us have done in one form or another is, when we outgrow our wanting to project and be at the mercy of the world, then we become merciful to it because we're no longer engaging in the ego volley of okay, I'll be upset by what you do, and then now you be upset with what I do, and that attack defense guilt cycle basically. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, crazy. Also, I noticed her brother's name was Adolf. I'm sure that that was not a popular name at that time. So,
Yeah, I would think, yeah, at least certainly
I I don't
in
think people really name their
before the
children.
rise of the Nazi regime,
Yeah,
it might have been a pretty neutral name, yeah.
yeah,
But
before that, yeah,
after that, probably not so much, yeah.
not so much. And that
Mhm.
was this is the time that Helen was growing up.
Right, right.
Yeah, so there we go.
Yep.
All right.
Well, my
This
dad's name was Donald, so
well, there you
I can
go.
relate.
That I won't do that again. No more Donalds, even if it's duck. All right.
Yeah. Really.
All right. The same principle was applied many, many years later when a woman moved into the apartment above Helen and Louis. She had only the bare floor in her bedroom, which was directly above Helen's bed. Late at night, while Helen was attempting to sleep, the woman would walk in her bedroom in high heels, and Helen would lie in bed fuming, experiencing this apparently insensitive and thoughtless person as walking on her head. As she lay in bed this one evening, it suddenly occurred to her that the problem was actually very simple. She believed that the woman was walking on her head. Always the visual person, Helen saw a string attached from the woman's heels to her head and understood that the string or connection was the problem, not the woman's heels.
Mhm.
Once Helen perceived the problem as existing in her mind, the solution was clear. Still visualizing the string connecting the shoes and her head, Helen reached into her imagination, took out a scissors, and cut the string, and she promptly fell asleep. Again, Helen had done nothing to change the external situation, nor did she have to do anything with the woman in terms of forgiving her.
Mhm.
She simply changed her mind. Forgiveness was accomplished.
Mhm.
I
Great
love,
story.
I love,
And it's also a reminder that metaphorically, when we cut the cord on the ego, or disconnect the mental wiring between what seems to be happening outside, which really is a result of our wanting to be separate and the ego's projection, as a result of that desire to escape from the sin, guilt, fear of the ego. So we project that out onto the world so that we're we can exhibit the face of innocence. Once we see what we're doing and ask Holy Spirit's help to see that, then the rerouting of that signal from our it's not from the nerves to the brain, because that's that but it's really not happening in the brain, it's really in the mind that's choosing either the Holy Spirit's interpretation, or really translation of what's going on, without distortion, or the ego's distorted interpretation of things that make everything in the world seem like an attack. So, for example, right now it's raining here in the Portland metro area where we live, and there are times when I hear the rain falling down in the downspouts from the gutters and making noise, and if I let that bother me, I'm basically saying that wiring, if you will, must go from the sound that my eardrums are registering to the ego interpretation. But if I let it go to the Holy Spirit's interpretation, I can experience it as just another sensation rather than something that has to annoy me. Or I think the classic example for me was years ago when I was building my house in Northern California, a geodesic dome on 3 acres in east of Sacramento, in the foothills. There was I really never cared for heavy equipment and the noise and the smoke that they make. But I remember when my neighbor had a D4 Caterpillar tractor, and he came down and said, "Oh, I'll cut the pad for your foundation." It was like music to my ears. And the noise and the chaos of that big earth moving equipment didn't bother me at all. Funny how that works, huh?
it is funny how that works.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't, yeah, first off, the sound of the rain, it doesn't matter what it's doing unless it's ripping my roof off. I love to hear it.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember about living in Ohio. We lived in Northeast Ohio up by Lake Erie, and
Okay.
we got the lake effect.
Oh, yeah.
So we would get these just rain. It would just rain for days and days and days.
Hmm.
And uh, out there, the house that we lived in, it had the regular gutters on the side, but it also had like that pipes that ran from the roof to through the house to the sewer below also.
Oh, okay.
And so it ran through the house too.
Oh, wow.
It was just so cool. I loved the sounds of all that.
Huh.
Uh, but you do at times get tired of the rain after a while. I never thought I could be tired of rain, but I did. Got tired of rain. I wish I could have it again, but that's that's the ego world. You don't, that. And then the heavy equipment. Uh, I guess, I don't like it when they're making a lot of noise in my neighborhood. But, you're right. If they're doing something that you want to have done, the sound is like music. So, or something similar. Anyway, but yeah, just to simply change your mind about it really changes everything. So Helen had this great discipline that she could do this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
And
it's something that we all can and will do, only because at some point we'll get so, you know, exasperated with and just, you know, fed up might not be the right word, but term, but and just we'll realize how ineffective the ego strategy is for delivering peace. In fact, it has a zero track record when looked at honestly and accurately. We will just simply drop it as even a
yeah,
consideration, let alone a viable option, right?
yeah, it just becomes nothing.
And the
It,
only option that's left, since there are only two, is the Holy Spirit's correction, which is nothing happened.
yeah,
That's the atonement
yeah.
principle.
And then all of a sudden that heavy equipment sounds like the hills are alive with the sound of music. You think, "Well, this is great. I
Or at
love
least
it.
grading.
We're grading." That's how I am. My voice, my voice has really gone nuts over the past few weeks. And I think it's because of this singular that I'm taking. I need to go and get changed up, get a different kind of drug because this one here is
You and Huey Lewis need a new drug, huh?
that's right. We need a new drug. All right. I'll read.
Okay.
So this example, by the way, is important as a correction for the mistake many students of A Course in Miracles make regarding forgiveness, believing that some behavioral expression is necessary for the process of forgiveness to be complete. And that's exactly true. You don't have to
Mhm.
say or do anything.
Right. It's like I was thinking, I haven't been in a 12-step program, but I know just a little bit about it. And I think one of the steps of the 12 is making amends, and oftentimes involves, writing, calling, or visiting people that you think that you have, you know,
Wronged.
wronged, and doing something to as a correction, as remediation. And while on the level of form, like Ken is saying here, sometimes may be appropriate and helpful. It isn't necessary in terms of the psychological aspect is really what's important is, and if I can truly forgive, then I've changed the whole cause. And while other things may still be playing out on the level of form, if I've eliminated the cause of the real cause of distress, I don't really have to worry about the outcome anymore.
Right, because there's no effect.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's, that is the exactly what forgiveness is for. It's
Hmm.
not for running around and telling people, "Oh yeah, I've made amends, I've forgiven whatever." It's or for doing anything like, "Oh gosh, I accidentally, burned down your garage 40 years ago. I, didn't tell you I was the one, but now I'm going to build you a new garage." That's not what it's asking for at all. It's
Hmm.
not reparation. There's no because there's nothing has gone wrong. The only thing that forgiveness does is clear my mind from the belief in guilt. and the belief, the guilt and the fear that comes from believing that there has been a sin.
Mhm.
So there we go, sin, guilt, and fear all in one place. And when we practice forgiveness, uh, we realize that sin is impossible. It never happened and it never could.
Right.
So what would you do to fix the impossible thing? Nothing, because it's impossible. It never
Mhm.
happened.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's where a lot of people get confused in the course, thinking that uh Jesus is asking us to forgive, but then also we believe that we have to do something in the world um to augment that forgiveness. And that's a big mistake. I just had somebody just posted yesterday on one of my Facebook groups. They're a course student. They posted this fairly long post about, just because I'm a course student doesn't mean that, I don't think I should go out and march, or that I should vote, or I should do this. And, of course, we have civic responsibilities. You must, do the things that you know are right in the world. Forgiveness is something that is, a good thing, but it's not going to, it's not enough. Somehow, if you're a
Mhm.
court student, it's not enough to just practice forgiveness. You have to do something in the world. And I mean, that is the level confusion
Right.
that
Right.
Course in Miracles students seem to fall into so frequently, because the guilt, the ego tells them, if you don't do something about it, it will, something worse will happen. Um, and Jesus, the forgiveness tells us nothing ever happened. There's
Right.
nothing to do. Forgiveness
Mhm.
takes it all away,
Right.
and it disappears. The when there is no more cause, the
Mhm.
effect disappears.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I think that's the key thing, no more cause. And that's true forgiveness really removes the cause completely. And I think a lot of times, I'll speak for myself. I have experienced many situations where I've done lip service or at best partial forgiveness, and then realize I still have more to forgive, and with that person or in that situation or whatever. And um, there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that if I think I have to do something on the level of form, that can be, um, and certainly there's opportunities to do that incorrectly too, and one might be inspired to do something on the level of form, but that would just flow naturally and wouldn't be associated with, if I do this or don't do this, I will feel guilty. It'd be more of just a natural expression or a reflection of that decision in the mind, which is what the real healing consists of, is changing your mind about uh, the other person, the other thing, the other situation, whatever. And that's the healing the course advocates, and which is really at the cause rather than the effect level, and it, like you were saying, avoids the level of confusion.
right,
Yeah.
and you need do nothing then.
Right.
And
Right.
and the problem I think we fall into, we think we do still need to do something, and we exacerbate the problem by going around and trying to fix something that we've already fixed. And
Right.
this is what we
Right.
have to understand. This is a metaphysical situation here.
Right. Yep.
This is not the world is not real.
Right.
This is a dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a metaphysical situation. If I do something in a dream, I don't have to go back to that dream and undo what I did,
Right.
because it was a dream the whole time.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
all I really have to do is forgive it and let it go, and stop thinking about it, and stop worrying about it, and stop imagining the repercussion. Oh, if I don't go fix that, then this and this is, because those are the things that are actually going to happen because I didn't forgive. If I really forgave it, I would not have any notion of going back to fix it. And I
Mhm.
think that for me, there's one thing in the course that has always kind of bugged me. Just one thing in
Only
the
one.
course
Wow, that's
that's
impressive.
always bugged me.
That's
Okay.
impressive, Lynn.
It is, I
I'm blown
know.
away.
Everything else I'm like fine with, okay, good. But that at the end of it all, when the carpet rolls up and there's no more time, that everything from this will be gone. There's no more, I won't remember it. I
So,
won't have
so when the
it.
carpet rolls up, there won't be some hands sticking out one end and feet sticking out the other?
No,
Okay, okay,
none of that. No.
okay, okay, good, good. That means you've
But
done it well. Yeah.
you're cracking me up here. But yeah, there's something in me, and that's probably why I'm still here. Something in me that says, yeah, but I want to remember, what this and but Jesus tells us the only thing that's going to be left is the love, and the love without the story. It's again, the whole idea of it never happened in the first
Mhm.
place. So why would I want to keep a memory of something that was, I mean, never real, not real, not at all.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
anyway, it's just, preference, I'd
Uh-huh.
rather hold on to the dream. So that's why I'm still here.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's true for all of us. I mean, I'm at the risk of generalizing for everyone else. I'll generalize for myself. It's just like, well, I'm realizing that I need to, uh, and and I don't need to do anything. As uh, Robert put in the chat, to the ego, I need do nothing is anathema. That's so true. It's like, well, I mean, because we think that results from the course's perspective as egos, we think that, well, now the world should change to reflect that. Well, not necessarily, because if the world is an illusion, how could a shift in the illusion um, be important if really the only change that's important is a change in our thought system from exclusion to inclusion, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that is doing it. I mean, really, that's all that the do that you have to do.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
need do nothing to me is directly levied at the ego, and the ego needs do nothing because the I that is our default until we learn the Holy Spirit's correction is the decision-making mind attached to, connected with, and associated with, identified with the ego. That's what we start out with when we begin practicing the course, and we realize, well, gee, I'm doing everything from ego motivation and from ego identification, and that's what needs do nothing. And the whole idea of need implies a lack. So the four words in I need do nothing are really really helpful. The need implies a lack, and the only thing that can experience lack is ego. Doing implies changing something, some physical action or some physical change of some sort. And, again, the course reminds us that what we think of as a physical universe as part of this illusion of the ego thought system is in the mind, and it's in particular it's in the ego part of the mind. And then the nothing, well, that's the ego's identity in, in one word. And that's the humor and the irony is that we don't have to do anything to fix the dream. Uh, the dream will disappear when we wake up.
yeah,
And it's kind of like when you stand up, where did my lap go? I had it here for the longest time.
exactly. That's what my cat thinks.
Really.
But where was that thing?
Where'd that thing go? It was a
That's
good lap too.
a good laugh.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Okay, so Ken continues. This example, by the way, is important as a correction for the mistake many students of Course in Miracles make regarding forgiveness, believing that some behavioral expression is necessary for the process of forgiveness to be complete. Well,
Like we're just
sometimes
saying,
such,
we're just saying that, aren't we?
yeah, yeah, exactly. While sometimes such behavior is called for, it need not be.
Mhm.
This was taught to Helen very clearly during the early months of her scribing the course. in an incident I alluded to in part 2. In the context of what is now Miracle Principle 25, Jesus used the example of a colleague of Helen's who had not done the best job possible on an important report. Jesus explained to Helen how, in correcting the report, with the person never knowing to this day of the mistake, she was performing a miracle by undoing the effects of a colleague's quote unquote sin. Miracles are part of an interlocking chain of forgiveness, which, when completed, is the atonement. This process works all the time and in all dimensions of time. A very good example of how this is accomplished is the time you rewrote the entire report for X. X had hurt something you love by writing a report you regarded as very bad. You atoned for him by writing one in his name that was very good. Actually, it was not your responsibility professionally to do this, but you recognized in this case that you are your brother's keeper. While you did not cancel X's sin, later defined as lack of love, you did cancel out its effect, which ultimately does cancel, i.e., undo the sin. So, she did this in the realm of the world. She fixed this report. So, I mean, I would do that too, fix the report if it was not right and it needed to go out, and not even think, oh, geez, I'm helping anybody out or doing a miracle. Um, but I love that uh, the process works all the time and in all dimensions of time. And that reminds me of the experiments that they did. And I can't even remember exactly because I'm not in on all of that. They did. I can't remember what it was. It's some sort of a. They shot two particles simultaneously, and the one they delayed uh the path of it, and the other one went directly through. But the one that they delayed the path on it, even though it got there later, um, they recognized that the one that got there first had been affected by the one that got there later, meaning that the future had been affected, or the past had been affected by the future. I don't even know. I'm
Yeah,
talking.
that's pretty cool stuff.
I'll
And
figure that.
and
I'll
it
find.
it warps our sensibilities, our ego sensibilities of linear time, which of course does frequently too. When you said they shot two particles, I was thinking, well, see, one particle was hospitalized, the other one was okay, right? So
Oh man, you are full of them this morning.
I'm
It's awful
just
early for
silly.
that kind of talk,
I'm
young
just
man.
silly. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love it.
What we were just reading, I should say what you just read, of Helen's correction of this colleague, um, reminded me of the section in the text of A Course in Miracles, chapter 9, section 3, called The Correction of Error. And that came up a couple times this week in some of the online Zoom meetings I attend. And I was reminded how important that is, and how sneaky that can be, because, a good ego will, um, in its lordliness will uh, basically stoop to correct an inferior ego, basically. And that's the whole thing, that I think sometimes it's obvious when we're doing that, but sometimes it can be pretty subtle. And I certainly was appreciative of that, reading this again, because it's like, once we think that I've got something figured out and someone else doesn't, there's a wrong and a right dichotomy, and a we and a they, and I've polarized and I've separated, and voila, I'm back at the bottom of the ego ladder once again, like Ken Wapnick says, with a thud. And I need to, forgive myself for wanting to make differences real. And it's not a sin, it's not evil or wicked. It's just a silly misuse of my mind that is not uh, helping me awaken as quickly as I could awaken. And So if I may, I'd like to read the first paragraph of that. It's brief, of that correction of error section, because I think it ties
Sure,
into
absolutely.
what you just read about Helen. Um, the correction of error. This is again chapter 9, section 3 in the text. The first paragraph goes: the alertness of the ego to the errors of other egos is not the kind of vigilance the Holy Spirit would have you maintain. Egos are critical in terms of the kind of quote sense unquote they stand for. They understand this kind of sense because it is sensible to them. To the Holy Spirit, it makes no sense at all. Well, maybe we'll read one more a sentence or two. To the ego, it is kind and right and good to point out errors and, quote, correct, unquote, them. This makes perfect sense to the ego, which is unaware of what errors are and what correction is. Errors are of the ego, and correction of errors lies in the relinquishment of ego. So I think that kind of spells it out pretty clearly. It's like, the only problem that we can ever have is choosing the ego. And so that's where it says, it's elsewhere in the text, it says, your one remaining freedom as a prisoner of this world, or a prisoner of the ego, if you will, is um, that we've chosen an insane thought system, an unreasonable thought system that we can learn to not choose as a default. I just made a blog post on ACIM blog about reason versus error, and reason and the forms of error, and
Yeah.
from about a month ago, the
Well,
conversations we had on that topic. So, but,
oh, I
yeah.
love that. Yeah, thank you for, I mean, and maybe you could post the link to
Oh,
that. Or
sure, sure. Yeah.
yeah, so as you were speaking, I was just recognizing what I was just had been reading and thinking about this story, about this report and Helen fixing it. And I was
Mhm.
thinking, is this could almost be like a Schrodinger's report. Okay.
Schrodinger's cat report.
Yeah, yeah, like a Schroeder, yeah, like a Schrodinger's cat report. All
Yeah.
right. Um, if she forgave it and didn't correct it, would it have been received as complete and whole and perfect with no error,
Hmm.
or because she chose to correct the error, it, I mean, would it be possible? And of course, I'm going to tell you my thought about the answer. Could it be possible that she could have not corrected the thing, but just forgave the point part of it,
Hmm.
and that the report itself would have appeared at the final end as being whole and perfect with no flaw?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
Because
the level of confusion again is just such a an important thing to catch, and the nothing so blinding as perception of form. It doesn't mean that like if you're a school teacher or a parent, you don't do things that are corrective, but you can do those things, or a friend, right? That you can do those things in a way that doesn't make the other person wrong. I think that's the key criteria. Is if there's a condemning tone or attribute to the correction, then that's the clue that I'm working solidly out of from ego territory in my mind.
well, yeah, but she had already determined the guy was wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
So that was done deal.
right, right. But
And
but
so
but
her
but
correction,
was the being wrong, or was the form wrong? That's all the
right,
the
right.
the, uh,
The
the important.
correction was not, the correction could have gone either way. She
Yeah,
could have
yeah,
corrected it through forgiveness, or she could have corrected it through fixing the report.
right.
And I am positing that on the other end, if she had just corrected it through forgiveness,
Hmm.
the report would have appeared on the other end as correct, whether she put her hand on it or not. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think so.
I'm
I,
saying that
I
because this is our dream.
well, that's it. That's it. Yeah. What an uncorrected dream better or worse than a corrected dream? Well, from the Holy Spirit's perspective, maybe not, but I think what that speaks to, and I can certainly identify and relate to, is like, we're still far more identified with the world having things that or work and don't work than not. At least I certainly am still got a lot of work to do, but I try not to, I try to remember, it's like, I have no idea what my progress is either.
Yeah, yeah, well, we
Yeah,
don't know.
we don't
But,
know.
if this goes along with, my earlier theory or thought idea that, I could stay in my room and practice forgiveness and heal the world just as easily, probably more easily and less problem than to go out and march in the street and, try to change the world. So either way, it's the same principle. You're trying to correct something you perceive as incorrect. But
Right.
through practicing forgiveness, I'm going to the source, which is not, that what's going wrong in our world doesn't have anything to do with not people not being in the streets with signs. If that was the problem was that there's not enough people in the streets with signs, then, we could fix that.
Right.
But the problem isn't that there's not enough people in the streets with signs. The problem is that we believe that there is a order of difficulty in miracles.
Mhm.
And we believe that there are orders of magnitude of sin or whatever. So it's if I
It,
change my mind about the world, does it change the world?
it might or might not, but
It
it,
does. You can't
it's,
help it.
yeah. Yeah. I guess I keep coming back to, illusion A equals illusion B equals illusion C, but that's them's fighting words to every ego, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, it's all the same illusion.
Yeah.
Whether illusion is the uh uh primary word there.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. If we fix the so I can I kind of understand this, uh, that repairing the report by herself uh was the right thing to do, but I also understand that it wasn't the right thing to do because it's going into the dream to repair the dream rather than repairing the source of the dream.
Right, right. And
So
at the beginning of that, at the end of that last paragraph, it says you did cancel out its effects, which ultimately does cancel out and undo the sin. But yeah, it's the only way we can really undo anything is to get to the cause, and the cause is in the mind, which is a thing that no ego wants to uh, admit that there's such a thing as mind, because if we do, then that basically calls into question the whole premise of the ego thought system,
exactly.
which is why we had to project a world in the first place in order to have that outer shield of defense, so that we would never get anywhere close to the inner shield of defense. I sometimes humorously try to think, so, well, the outer shield of oblivion, which is epitomized by lesson 5, I'm never upset for the reason I think. I think the world's, making me upset. And that's 90% of the forgiveness process. But
Yeah.
the other 90% is, once I've brought it inside, I need to forgive myself.
Are you doing Republican math? The 90% of this
No,
and
that's been long before. I heard that example long before I saw evidence in politics. But yeah, yeah,
yeah, but it's pretty funny. It's all in the mind. There's
yeah.
only one place, there's only one problem, there's only one solution.
Mhm.
And as long as, we look to the world and try to find the solutions in the world, we're going to be confused.
Yep,
And
yep,
it's only, yeah,
yeah.
atonement is,
And yet denying the world uh, from the level that we think we're at is depriving ourselves of the classroom that is crucial to us, having the material we need to undo. Um, so it's like, that's why Jesus says early in the text, it's a particularly unworthy form of denial, and that's the bliss nitty, practice of skipping over steps of thinking, oh well, all there is perfect oneness. I just need to meditate on that all day long and not do anything in the world. Well, that's not the idea. Yes, we really, it's important to act our part with honor, as one of Ken Wapnick's programs suggest,
Yeah.
and do the things that we would be doing in the world anyway, and do it well. You know, if you're a
Yeah.
ditch digger or a brain surgeon or a bank robber or an astronaut, you know, do all those things well, right?
Right. As long as you believe that they're real and that there's an effect of it, of
Right.
course you're going to do that. So there's no, I mean, there's no conflict here. And believe me, to come to the point where you recognize that none of it is real,
Mm.
by that time, if there's a time involved, by that time, you've come to, recognize that the only thing that you can really do is forgive the world.
Yeah.
But until then, you're going to keep trying and you're going to keep doing the things that you think you need to do, and because you don't want to feel guilty about it. God forbid, the next door neighbor's dog is out there in the cold and I don't do something about it. And then, the next door neighbor's dog dies from uh, hypothermia. I'm going to feel guilty because I should have done something. That's how the world works. That's how
Yeah. Yeah.
evil works. So,
Speaking of abandoned pets, if anybody needs an orange cat, we have one that's living on our porch that we sort of inherited from the neighborhood here in Hillsboro, Oregon.
yeah,
So we have a nice little friendly orange cat that needs a home.
have you been feeding it?
Well, yeah, we've been feeding it and
Okay, then
giving it a
it's your
little
cat.
box. Yeah, I know. We already got two indoor cats. Should I finish up this chapter? There's like two
Yeah, go
paragraphs.
ahead and finish up this
Okay.
chapter.
Okay. The final example, now this is Ken talking again. The final example involved Louis. One evening, Helen and Louis had an argument, which was not resolved by the time Louis retired to the bedroom to take his usual evening nap. Helen was still fuming, and in the course of her stompings, walked into the kitchen and for some reason, oh, I remember the story now,
I love this.
opened the bread box, and there, beside whatever bread and cake was stored, was a pair of Louis's very much used socks. The passive aggressiveness behind Louis's absent-mindedness did not escape Helen. Louis never felt he was a match for Helen's anger, and so this was not an uncommon way for him to, quote, get even, unquote. And she became even more enraged. Suddenly, in the midst of her mental tirade, during which she was probably on the verge of storming into the bedroom, armed to kill, the thought occurred to her, I am angry, in quotes, I am angry because I believe that I am a bread box and that Louis did this to me, unquote. There's the withdrawal of the projection, right? It's not about the bread box. It's about I'm doing this to myself, the secret of salvation. Her anger immediately subsided as she realized the silliness of her position. This situation with Louis, as well as the one with the high-heeled lady, antedated the course. So she knew about this stuff even before she started channeling Jesus, and that's brilliant material. We now all enjoy it. Again, they illustrate Helen's intuitive understanding of the important principle from A Course in Miracles, already cited, that we are never angry at a fact, but only at an interpretation of a fact. And that's where we send the signals from the world to the ego or to the Holy Spirit for processing, right? In other words, our anger only comes from our misperception, in parentheses, the interpretation, that our unhappiness is caused by events or circumstances external to us and beyond our control. Well, there's a phrase that's near and dear to every ego's heart, right? External to us and beyond our control. In these two situations, the facts were that the lady was walking on her bare floor with her high heels, and that Louis placed his socks in the bread box. The interpretation was that these facts were being done to Helen. And while this might have been Louis's unconscious intent, and then in parentheses, Ken says, I cannot actually vouch for this regarding the woman. um, this would have nothing to do with Helen unless she shared in these attack thoughts. Thus, she did not change the facts, she simply reinterpreted them. Helen did not need the wisdom of A Course in Miracles to teach her this principle. She was that wisdom. So, and this is true for all of us. You know, if we'd still have plenty of opportunities to experience the undoing of the ego, even if A Course in Miracles hadn't come along. But I'm sure glad it did, because it certainly
Absolutely.
does put into very sharp focus what we're doing with our minds so that we can um, really understand what's going on and make use of the readily available correction at every moment. Huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. And wow. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and mark the page,
Yep, me too.
close the share.
And then
But
we're queued
well,
up for
before
chapter 18 next week. Yeah.
yep, exactly. But here's today's lesson. 305. There is a peace that Christ bestows on us. Who uses but Christ's vision finds a peace so deep and quiet, undisturbable and wholly changeless, that the world contains no counterpart. Comparisons are still before this peace. Comparisons are still before this peace.
Mhm.
And all the world departs in silence as this peace envelops it and gently carries it to truth, no more to be the home of fear. For love has come and healed the world by giving it Christ's peace. It's the forgiveness that we're talking about right here. That when once we decide that we all we want is peace, we're going to stop the judgment, stop the comparisons, stop the this is better than that, and uh, when we're using Christ's vision, we're going to see that everything is love. And when we see that everything is love, there is no disturbance.
Mhm.
Nothing has gone wrong. So, Father, the peace of Christ is given us because it is your will that we be saved. Help us today, but to accept your gift and judge it not. For it has come to us to save us from our judgment on ourselves.
Hooray.
Right.
What a gift indeed.
Be gone, ye. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lynn, as always, for a wonderful hour of conversation. And I look forward to next week. And we're getting close. I think next few weeks, I
Yeah.
think we should be able to wrap this maybe even before December and
Wow.
jump into the Ken's biography.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
All
me
right.
too. Me too.
But I'm
And I,
excited. I love this too.
oh,
And now
I've
I'm gonna go
thoroughly
back
enjoyed
and
this.
stuff.
Way more than I thought I would, just because I've realized that it's applicable to my own mind, not just an interesting read about a person that I hadn't met in the flesh, so to speak. Yeah, but I certainly feel like I know Helen well and Ken well based on the readings we've done.
Absolutely. Me too. So much better. So, all right. Thank you so much